All right, let's talk about how to cook mushrooms or how to saute mushrooms, right? Just to start, you got to clean them off. So you want to get all that soil off that you can. And a lot of these can be pretty dirty. I've already cleaned these. And one thing that's really important with mushrooms when you go to cook them is how you cut them, all right? So we have different sizes here. If you had consecutively a bunch of mushrooms this size, you could cook them all together, right? And maybe you had a side dish of just button mushrooms. So these are not white button. These are creminis, or some people call them baby bellas. But really what they are is the button, the white button. I think, let me know in the comments, do you know the difference between a baby bella and the white buttons? But what I think is they're just a little bit further along in the process, and that's why they're brown. If you had, say, bigger guy like this, right? And you had a bunch of little guys like this one, then if you cook these together, this one would be cooked and this one wouldn't, right? So what you can do if you have different sized mushrooms is, if you were just cooking all the little guys, is this mushroom you would quarter it, right? So you'd cut it this way and this size. Now these could be cooked with this size mushroom and you'd get the same results, okay? Now what we're going to do today is we're going to cook these mushrooms like you're going to put them on burgers or you're going to put them on a steak, right? And this method doesn't matter. And all we're going to do is slice the mushrooms up consecutively. I don't know why I keep saying consecutively, but this thickness, right? And now it doesn't matter how big the mushroom is, as long as the thickness is the same. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all these and then we'll get into cooking them. All right, so now I got a frying pan on the heat, right? I got a large frying pan. The goal here is not to overwhelm the pan with the actual mushrooms. If you put way too many mushrooms in there, what we're going to end up doing is steaming the mushrooms, because mushrooms are just a giant sponge, right? They're full of water already. And our goal is, when we're cooking them, is we want to brown them, right? So if we brown the mushrooms, we're going to draw out some flavor out of these mushrooms. But if we overcrowd this pan, they're just going to like boil off with all the moisture coming out and we won't get any browning, right? Hey guys, I wanted to share with you real quick. I have a cooking basics course. It's got lessons in there that will help you learn how to cook or elevate your cooking game. It's extremely affordable. Check out the link in the description or the link above. Now let's get back to the video. So you're going to take a frying pan, get it on medium-high heat, all right? And then you're going to add, I use extra virgin olive oil. So use a good quality olive oil or a high heat oil, right? You're going to lightly coat that pan. You know when you got your oil hot enough is when it streaks across that pan. You want to get it covered. Now, we're trying to get to this oil to almost smoking. So extra virgin, you're like 350, 375, something like that before it starts smoking. So I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it's just starting to smoke, right? So we're at the right temperature. So we're going to add the mushrooms, but add them away from you. Guys, if you added them to that pan and you don't hear that sizzle, you added them too early. And that oil didn't get hot enough, right? All right, so guys, spread them out on that pan. And the goal here is to get some surface area on those mushrooms, right? So then you might ask me, so why don't we salt them right now? Because you do not want to salt the mushrooms right now, because if you salt these, what are you going to end up doing? You're going to release all that moisture out of that mushroom super fast, and you're not going to get any browning. You can see that one? We got some browning, right? So this is just starting to brown a little bit. So go ahead, move them around, and now we can get some browning on the other side. You can see the difference of the two. These have been cooked. These ones are just getting flipped. Now you can see that they're not overcrowded in here, and all this moisture coming off has somewhere to go. One thing about mushrooms too is you might have thought you had a bunch, but by the time these guys whittle down with losing their moisture, they're going to be a lot small. Now let's talk about these mushrooms, right? What are these good for? Dude, these things are a game changer on any burger. If you're making a good steak, like cooking up a ribeye, putting a mushroom on there is just unbelievable. All right, guys, so now that moisture's still leaving, we're not burning them on the bottom of that pan. We're starting to get some browning on the bottom. As you can see that mushroom's browning, and that's just giving us flavor, right? That's why you tend to just leave them and let them do their thing. I'm down at maybe medium heat. Now, how far do you go with the mushroom, right? You don't want to shrink them down to nothing where there's nothing in there mush, but you don't want them to be to the point where they're still kind of raw and you're getting that raw flavor. And you're only gonna know that by experience after you've done it a while. All right, so now I've seen that I got a good browning on some of these. You can see this one here and this one here. Go ahead and get them moving around. These are almost close, guys. This is almost done. So guys, when you season these is at the very end, when you're done cooking them. The water's been released from these, so now we know if we add the salt, they'll still be able to brown and finish in the pan. If you want to add pepper, that's the time to do it too, right before you pull them off. You don't want to add pepper in the middle of the process or the beginning because pepper will burn on a frying pan like this. So we're going to do that seasoning at the very end here. Man, they smell great if you could smell this. You don't want to burn them. You see this little bit of coating on the bottom of the pan. That browning and that mushroom has some flavor to it too. So now you got to consider, do you want to deglaze the pan with something? What are you going to put these on? If you're putting this on a burger or a steak, butter will go really good. So now I'm going to season them. A little bit of kosher salt. All right. And then I'm going to add some black pepper. All right. And I'm not going to use a balsamic for these mushrooms, which I tend to do and I love. I'm just going to add some butter. And that butter is going to deglaze the bottom of the pan. And it's also going to add some fat to the dish, which will give these mushrooms a lot of flavor as well. And as you can see, this is going to deglaze the bottom to add any extra flavor that those mushrooms would have. Oh man, these smell good. They're even going to taste better. Look at that. So guys, that's how you cook mushrooms and put them on a burger or a steak.